Welcome back, everyone, to my discussion with my biggest loser friends in part two of a two-part series. We're going to finish our conversation about the National Institute of Health study. We're also going to find out who's the better trainer, in our best opinion. And in the end, we're all going to ask each other some questions that the other two were just now prepared for. I hope you enjoy it. Thing. So when I see something like a Netflix series, I'm like, you know what? I want to get together with the people that I know that I share the experience with, right? Now,
Exactly.
they hit on something else in the Netflix that was only a select few of us. And I feel like they grazed over this. And I became even more upset about this when our show doctor, Dr. Huizinga,
Yeah, Dr. H.
went on television and actually disputed the study that I think he started. Maybe I'm wrong.
He may not have started it, but he was well aware of it and what they were testing and what they were looking for.
Yeah. So that was the study done at the National Institute of Health.
Mhm.
There was 14 of us that were selected to be part of this study. And the three of us were three of those 14.
Exactly.
Okay. So we all experienced it, but I don't think I can stop somebody on the street and say, "Hey, do you know that National Institute of Health study they did on the previous Biggest Losers? What did that say?" And they're gonna go, "What are you talking about?"
Yeah.
You know? So, can either of you explain to me really what was done? Because the interviews I saw from some of the 14 of us were just, "Hey, they screwed up my metabolism, and that's why I've gained all the weight." Do you guys feel that way?
I feel that that's what a lot of people are saying. If someone were to ask me, Alan, tell us about that study you're in, and I say, yeah, I'm part of a study, and I thought it was an ongoing study, but I honestly, to be honest, I did not read too much of it. Again, this was just another phase in my life. It's just like, okay, yeah, I'll go along, I'll do it, I'll take part in it. I know that in the end, they told me, in my resting metabolism, that I lost the ability to metabolize 750 calories in my resting metabolism. I'm like, okay,
So what does that mean?
yeah. What
Yeah.
does that mean? It's like, okay, yeah, okay, fine.
Amanda,
But I still got my life to live.
It's an important
Amanda,
reward for all of
what you
us. All of our
what
Go
did
ahead.
you take from it?
Well, very similar to that. I just feel like we were told that our resting metabolic rates had gone down, but then we were left with nothing after that. It was like, okay, and then what?
Yeah. Well, here, I'm going to share some separate stuff with you guys I may
All
have
right.
not shared. So, before I went on the study and I was talking to the doctors there, I asked them very specifically, is this study intended to help me, or is this study intended to help people after me? And they said, very much the latter. And I
Okay.
said, okay, all right, you know what? I'll do it anyway. Right. I'll be a guinea pig for science here. Now, here's what I took from it. Okay. When we started the show, they did a lot of testing, and they tested one of the things they tested was our resting metabolic. And for people who don't know, is that is how many calories you're burning in a day completely at rest,
Yes.
right? And what I think the public doesn't know is people who are larger require more energy just to be alive, right? We
True.
need more to function, to pump our lungs, to pump our heart,
Mhm.
to do all those things. So my resting metabolic was in the upper 3,000. When I finished the show, my resting metabolic was in the low 2,000. And that is where a lot of like professional athletes, people who are very, very fit, that's where they live because your body is a very intelligent animal, right? It's a
Yes.
smart machine. And as you're burning through calories, it becomes very efficient at burning calories. This is what I'm to understand. So that's where we ended up. What they didn't know until they studied us is the resting metabolic now stays there. It does not go back up because I had regained the weight. My resting metabolic did not go back into the 3,000s. It stayed in the low
No
twos.
twos. All right.
So now that I went on something called maintenance, where I was no longer on my 1,800 calorie a day diet, and I was on an average of maybe mid twos or upper twos, depending on the day, I was gaining weight, even though I was eating healthfully and being conscious of what I did and how I worked out. So
because you weren't burning.
before I went up on the show, before I went on that reunion that Dr. Huizinga had a year and a half later, I was on the phone with him and I said, Dr. Huizinga, in the last year and a half, I can tell you that I have not gone back to my regular eating habits. I'm not eating fast food. I'm not eating fried food. I'm not drinking Coca-Cola or Sprite or any of that kind of stuff. And I'm not telling you I'm being perfect, right? But I eat very healthfully. I eat very consciously. And I had been with my trainer maybe out of the last year and a half, and you guys both know my trainer, Tony, who's the greatest trainer in the world. I was maybe without him for 3 months. I did triathlons, I did 5Ks, I did 10Ks, and I was starting to train for a marathon,
Yeah.
okay? And I said, "Dr. Huizinga, knowing all this, I'm not complaining because I haven't lost any more weight. I just wanna understand how I managed to gain 75 pounds."
Yeah. I remember you talking to
Mhm.
me about that.
And
Yeah.
his response to me, and this is the first time I'm saying it publicly, he said, "Julio, are you just eating healthfully or are you dieting?" And I about lost my mind.
Are you eating healthfully or just dieting?
Because we're all under this illusion that there's this maintenance phase that we all walk into, but that maintenance phase doesn't exist. They wonder why people like us gain weight so rapidly because nobody knew their metabolisms were affected. Not that they destroyed our metabolism. Anybody who goes through this process is going to lower their metabolism. That's why
Mhm.
people, when they diet, go into a plateau because their body slows its metabolism to meet its caloric
Caloric
intake
intake.
versus caloric outtake, right? Because your body doesn't want to wither to nothing. And that's why people plateau. This was my understanding from the study. Furthermore, they wrote this in the study. They talk about it like a sprint. Like the more you fight back against it, the more it wants you to gain weight back. It's
Mhm.
almost as if your body is fighting to gain the weight back. And that's the struggle we go into. So when those people look at us with those sad eyes, like, oh, you did it. You did it. Why can't you do it? Why'd you let yourself get this way?
Yeah.
It's not the same for everybody. Now, some people had an easier time with it than others.
Yeah.
Let's be honest. Not all of us were like me and a few others in the show that started plus 400 pounds and were there for a long time,
Yeah.
right? So some people had a better go of it than others, but a lot of us struggle. Of all of us 400 pounders, I think we all struggled mightily, right? And not
Right.
over time, like right away,
Yeah.
you know? All right, that's as far as I'm gonna go on that. That's as far as the NIH, because otherwise I'm gonna start getting super ass emotional.
I hit some of that stuff. I remember them saying that, your body is comfortable at a certain weight and your body will fight to get back to
To
that
get
weight
there.
and to be comfortable at that weight. That is one of the things I do remember them telling us, is that, Alan, your body, and these aren't the exact numbers and stuff, but like Alan, your body's comfortable at 265 and your body's going to fight to be at that 265, which goes along with what you were saying, you know, and I also remember, and I believe it was Dr. H. And if I'm wrong, then I apologize. But I can remember them saying, or him saying, or someone saying that, you guys are to maintain where you're at now. You're going to have to do the same regimen for the rest of your lives.
He told me
And
that directly.
I can remember going, oh hell no, I cannot do that for
Yeah.
the rest of my life and still live my life. I'm not independently wealthy. I don't have that kind of time or extra time on my hands. I cannot do this type of regimen the rest of my lives. And for those of you out there who are wondering, well, Alan, what regimen are you talking about? I'm talking about working out 6 to 7 to 8 hours every single day, not taking a day off.
Yeah.
I mean, when we were on the ranch, we were walking, we were working out a minimum of 6 hours a day. Even when we were filming, you were moving, you were doing something, and I can
Yeah.
I can remember like, well, I guess I'm just going to get big again because I'll probably get lazy again and I just can't work out 6 to 8 hours.
It's not
No, not
realistic to
realistic.
do it with.
Now, I spent the most time at home because I don't know if everybody's aware, but both Amanda and Alan decided to vote me out. I'm just saying, okay? So guess what? If I voted for Aaron, okay, let me have that, okay? I'm just
Fair,
I'm
fair.
just saying, you cried, though, I'll give
But
you that.
but
You
you know
cried.
what? We have to jump on Amanda because Amanda also voted me off.
Is it
Amanda.
because he was a man?
We love you, Amanda. I love you.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
know.
So, yeah, he did tell me that same thing directly.
Yeah.
I will tell you. So
So
I completely get that. Here, so Tony was on. Tony, you guys both know Tony. Tony
mhm.
was my trainer when I got home. Tony was this young 25-ish-year-old trainer who was new, and oh my God, I was blessed to find this man. But he told the story. I was in the gym 3 times a day.
Yeah.
Who can do that in a regular life?
Yeah.
But it was at that point our job, you know? So that being said, since we're on the subject of trainers, I'm going to ask a question that everybody wants to know. Who was the best trainer? Now, when I say who was the best trainer, I want to know on that show, and I'm speaking specifically of Bob or Jillian, because the public does not know that Bob and Jillian had assistant trainers.
No,
They
they do
don't
not.
know that they sent those people in and that we all feel that they were better trainers. No, we're not going to say that publicly.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, not pup.
We're going to say that secretly to each other.
Love you, Daniel.
But based on Bob and Jillian on the ranch, who was a better trainer?
Ladies first.
Amanda, sheet up,
You
you know.
know, anybody watched, they know I was a Bob girl. I loved Bob. I think Jillian was a great trainer too, but I had a better connection with Bob. I think his style, he just spoke to me in ways I needed to be spoken to in order to listen and do the things that I needed to do to be successful. And the way we were able to kind of collaborate together to figure out what worked for me. I don't know. I think anybody that knows that I was a Bob girl through and through. And, we've maintained a friendship after the show, occasionally a random message to each other. And I can appreciate that too.
Yeah.
But nothing bad to say about Jillian. I just think that Bob and we just meshed well. And I really liked his training method.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What about you, my friend?
Well, for me, I would have to say, as far as the better trainer, not necessarily the better trainer, but the better trainer that I think that worked for me or would have worked for me in the long term would have been Bob. A lot of people, without giving our age away, Bob and I are the same age. There's about 6 months between us.
He's that old?
He is that old.
Okay.
And, Jillian, not to sell her short, she knew her stuff. She was good, but her motivational style for me did not work. I had a real tough time looking down at someone who was looking up and trying to yell and scream at me. That just wasn't something that motivated me. Again, at the time, I was, older than she was. I was not someone who was always big. I did have knowledge of fitness, you know, and this is something hopefully, we may get into later, in our talk. But I mean, for me, I had just gotten lazy and I knew everything about fitness and eating right. I just chose not to. I just got lazy. But Bob, as Amanda had said, the way that he would talk, the way that he would motivate, he was the better trainer for me,
Yeah.
at the ranch.
I'm giggling to myself right now because you guys are gonna hate me right now for this answer so much. Okay.
Oh,
Let's
All
hear
no.
it.
right. All right. So I'm gonna answer my own question in the way that I asked it, the appropriate way.
All right.
If someone stopped me on the street and they said, "Who is the better trainer?" In other words, if I was to bring one of them back right now to sit in front of me and to put me on some sort of exercise, it is 100% unequivocally 100% Bob. I agree with you both 1,000%. The things I saw that man do, the things I saw him put people through,
Mhm.
I literally told my wife 2 more weeks he would have brought me to the dark side. That is no lie. Okay. That man was phenomenal when
Yeah.
it came to that.
Yeah, he was a good motivator.
That being said,
Yes.
what I learned from Jillian, not in the world of exercise, but the lessons she taught me are still with me today. So,
When you say lessons.
well, Jillian had a thing where she like really just needed to get to the core of me. And because of that, Jillian and I, after the show, have emailed many times. She's been there for me through some hard times. I think that she cares about the people more than her persona on TV. She cares more. That doesn't mean she's a better trainer, but
Mhm.
I think she cared more after the fact. On the show, she wanted to win. Let's
Oh,
be
yeah.
honest.
Yeah.
Okay. But there was a point where she took me out for a one-on-one, which if you guys have ever been on the one-on-ones, those are the most horrible times we had.
Yeah, I
Like
got a
literally,
story on
like
that.
you
We'll
like
hold that.
literally you just wanted to like crawl away in a hole and die when they did this. And she
Yeah.
brought me over and I leaned over, I said, "Jillian, I'm afraid of you." And she goes, "Why?" And I said, she goes, "Oh, I get it. You like Bob, because Bob tells you how strong you are. He tells you how good you're doing. And when you're done, he says, 'Hey, good job.' And you walk away feeling fulfilled." She goes, "I work you out till you fall and then turn around and walk away and don't say a thing, and you hate that." I go, "Yeah, that's exactly right. That's exactly how I feel." And
Yeah.
she goes, "But why do you think it was you?" And I stood there stunned. And she goes, Why isn't it that just I'm just a bitch?" And I went, "Oh my God, that makes all the sense in the world. I'm blaming myself that I didn't please you in some way. And you're saying that's just who you are. It's not my fault that you walked away and turned around. I still did the work. I still did the job. Because I don't get the affirmation doesn't mean that I didn't do the right thing." And I will never forget her for that extremely valuable lesson
Yeah.
and how to handle myself in those situations. Like, I don't even know that she knows what she taught me in that moment. And Jillian did get a little bit to the core of who I was. Okay. Do you guys want to hear that story? Or is that too much?
No, throw it out there.
All right.
Yeah, it's yours to
Like
share.
I never talked about this.
Because it will be like the show. We'll edit it if it's bad.
I never talked about this before.
All
Okay.
right, let's hear it.
So Jillian pulls me out. I'm not going to tell you all the circumstance. She pulls me out for a one-on-one, right? Like I was willing to go on the bicycle. What do you call a spin bike?
Just spin.
Which I hated, by the way. That was torture for me. I'd rather go on the
The
Stairmaster.
seats weren't comfortable.
It didn't make any sense. So to avoid her, but she pulled me out and she literally walked down the line going, "Who's going to be my victim today?"
I remember
And I'm like,
those.
"Please not me." Right. And she goes, "Julio." And I'm like, "Great." So she brings me on a treadmill, puts me on an incline that I was very uncomfortable with at a speed that I couldn't handle, jumps on the other one next to it like some kind of like spider monkey and gets in my face and starts tearing into me. And she needs to know what brought me here. And for the life of me, for 20 minutes, we're going into this, and she's trying to kill me, and nothing would come out of me. Right. The crew actually gave up. The cameras turned off. They walked away. And I'm doing that stupid ass kettlebell thing where you squat with it and pull it up like that nobody could figure out the rhythm to. It was awful. And they gave up on it. And then she's giving up on it. And she goes, "What's the matter? Did your father not go to your baseball games?"
Ouch.
I literally stopped breathing. I stopped breathing. And I looked at her and she looked at me with this like, "Oh my God." And you know what I did? The one thing she never expected, I grabbed the kettlebell and started going. And she grabs the kettlebell out of my hand. She goes, "No." Now, I will tell you years later that Jillian, not years later, but soon after, Jillian wrote a book and she contacted me and wanted to share that story in the book. And I was not ready to tell that story because I don't think my father ever did anything on purpose. I don't know what that was about, but obviously it got me. And I, so I asked her to put it, she could put it in the book, but just don't put my name.
Mhm.
Right? So I went to the gym and I told Tony the story. He goes, "Let me ask you a question. The number one trainer in America wrote a book, right? To help people. She thought so much of your story, she decided to dedicate a page and a half of that book to you." I go, "Yeah. And you told her to pound salt." I go, "Yeah, kind of." He goes, "All right, I got you." So I wasn't ready to share it. My father passed this past year at the age of 99, bless his heart. And I thought it was time to share it because Jillian helped me with that. And for whoever's a better trainer, I have to give her that forever. Okay. So, anybody else want to share something like that?
I'd love to share a one-on-one that I had with Jillian, but you know, it happened, but it never got aired, and I'll just leave it at that.
Oh, that's obviously not good.
It was not good. It was not
Yeah.
good for Jillian,
Oh,
and I'll leave it at that.
okay. She tried hard. See, so what does this tell us, right? We all had such different experiences, but we all came through the same battle together. So your total experience, right? All right, so let's get to something else because now it got sappy. I wanted to go somewhere else. I spoke before about we're going to ask each other a question that we may not have asked other Biggest Losers before, but we want an answer to.
All right.
Who wants to go first? I feel like Amanda, you should go first because you'll forget yours if we don't. Did you write it down?
No, because it's not a hard one. I genuinely wonder, knowing what you guys know now, is there anything about your experience that you would have changed? Would you have changed anything, or do you feel like that you could have controlled? Obviously, you can't control being voted out, things like that, but is there anything that you would have changed? Would you have opened your mind to something that maybe you were closed off at the time or anything like that? Is there what would you have
You
changed to have
do
made
you
your
mind if I
experience
go
different, or
first?
No,
would you leave
please.
it?
Yeah.
Amanda, that's a fantastic
It
question.
is a good question.
How you are not in journalism is beyond me because that's a fantastic question. I know it sounds funny, but I actually mean it. Look at that pun. Look at so so I actually have had sleepless nights because I could have done better.
Mm,
Mhm.
I was at the brink of most of the competitions I was in. I was surprised at the things I was capable of. I always thought that I could have tried a little harder, done a little better, and I truly feel like I gave up on myself. So, yes, that's what I would have changed. I would have went in it with an attitude of like, I got this and I can do it, which is going to lead to
Yeah.
my question to you guys. So I'll leave the rest of it out, but that's a wonderful question.
you don't want to go ahead and lead
you're
into your question? Go ahead.
you're gonna say nothing, aren't you? You're gonna say I would have changed nothing. I was perfect when I showed up and I'm perfect when I left.
Well, I wouldn't say perfect, but you're right. I wouldn't change a thing. I would not have changed a thing. I am who I am. I did what I did, and I would do the exact same thing again.
Mhm.
Because that's
And
that's
see, for
just me.
me, like, what the audience doesn't realize, like, these jokes about me forgetting things, right? I admitted to Julio and Alan that a lot of what we did on the show, I genuinely have, like, very faint or bad memory of things that I experienced. And as I was talking to my husband about it recently, I wish I could do it again, and I wish I could realize like, I wish I did not take for granted what that experience was. I wish I really just stopped and in those moments realized how freaking lucky we were to be given this opportunity, and I wish, like, Julio, like you said, I wish I pushed myself harder and just did more because we were so capable of it, but I think, the moments of things are tough, we become our own worst enemies and sometimes self-sabotage.
Yeah.
But I wish I guess I'm answering my own question, but I want people to realize I think I took it for granted. What an incredible experience that we were given, and I wish I could go back and just relive it and just say, "Amanda, this is so freaking cool." Every single day, I wish I woke up and said, "You need to remember these things. This will never happen again in your lifetime."
Yeah,
Most
Yeah.
likely. Will never happen
yeah.
again. And we are so freaking blessed with the experiences that we had, and I just wish that I really took in those moments longer and deeper and really just realized how freaking cool it
Yeah.
was.
That's
Well, and
fantastic.
then because we have talks like this, we jog your memory. So now you can go back and you can
Yeah.
journal. You can be like, "Oh, this is a
Yeah.
journal. It's 15, 17 years later, but hey, I can journal this. I remember that now."
Listen, I decided I'm not gonna charge either of you guys for this therapy session. So,
Oh,
what
alright.
is
And, my disclaimer that I missed in the beginning of the show, I am not getting paid. I'm not being
he's
compensated.
being paid with 10,000 kisses, don't kid yourself. Yeah. Yeah, he had no issue going for the good bourbon, I'll tell you that. What, so do you have a question for us?
Yeah, my question for you 2 is, and Amanda, I think you've already answered it, but we'll let you answer it again. Would you do it again?
1000% yes.
I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, my experience was very different than you guys, right?
Yeah.
I've told you
Yes.
guys separately, the way the dynamic set up, I truly, at the age of 40, never felt hated by other people until I got on that show. I never felt disliked. I never felt looked down upon. For some reason, I was the right kind of wrong for a
Hmm.
lot of people, and that memory has lingered with me now for 16 years.
Mhm.
And I still every day in my life look at people wondering, do they hate me and why do they hate me? And I never had that thought before I went on the show. So that's something I've been working on. And would I do it again? If I did it again, I would do it to overcome the ill feelings I have. You guys had good experiences. My experiences were not the same.
Yeah.
I had good things
Right.
that happened, I've had great friends that have come of it. Like, Amanda, I cannot talk to you for 3 years and text you and you're like, "What's up, buddy?" Like, there's no disconnect from us
Mhm.
whatsoever.
Right.
Yeah.
And Alan, my god, you're like a brother now.
Yeah.
Alan and I have vacation together, we've been in saunas together, and we just don't talk about it.
Yeah, we don't talk about the saunas.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. All right. Can I
So
ask you guys a question then?
yeah, but let me give my answer.
Oh, I thought you already gave your answer.
Well,
Yeah.
no. Because the reason I asked that question, because when I was out on the circuit, that was the question I always got asked. "Alan, would you go on the show again? Would you do it again?"
Mhm.
And my standard answer was like, "No, because I mean, that means I gained all my weight back." Well, guess what? I
Right.
had almost gained
Ugh.
all of my weight back. Not all of it, but I came pretty close. So, you know, I don't know. It's a good question. If I did do it again, I wouldn't change anything. But people remember our show and remember, in one of the episodes, where we talked. You talked about where they would ask you questions, in those little interviews afterwards, and they said, "Well, if we say this, will you do this or say this?" Well, in one of the episodes, the hanging episode, you remember when we were hanging above that
Oh,
pool and we had to
so
drop?
much you have no idea.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I can remember, and I just said this, because it was always, "Alan, how you going to do?" And then, "Alan, you going to win this one?" I always said, "I win, you lose, enough said." Well, one of the producers heard that. And in one of those sit down interviews, they wanted me to repeat that. And again, I would do it again for the challenge, to go out there and to compete because I love to compete.
See, but that's when you knew it was a TV show,
Oh, yeah. I knew it was a
right?
TV
A
show
lot
from
of
the
the
get
times
go.
we're
Yeah.
living in this fantasy land,
Yeah.
right? Because when you're there, it's different,
Yeah.
right? When you're in the moment, it's different, right? When you're in the moment of those competitions, it's different than what you watch on TV.
Hmm.
Being there is a whole other thing. Now, can anybody here watch a reality show anymore without completely understanding what's going on behind the scenes?
You're like,
Like
that's not true.
it's
They talked about that before. That's
it,
scripted.
it's blown the fantasy for us, right?
Yeah.
Here, that particular one, they made me film me letting go of it on the ground after the fact.
No, I did not know that.
God's honest truth.
Really?
Yeah, and then the guy looks at me and goes, "Good job." All right, can I ask you my question now?
Yes.
All right, here's my
Okay.
question. So I'm gonna ask you, Amanda, directly. What did you
Okay.
learn about yourself that you didn't know before you went to the show?
It's a loaded
Oh my
And
one.
that
god,
is
listen, I'm in therapy. I know how to ask you.
Well, I think a lot of what I kind of touched on earlier is I just don't think I realized kind of the strength I had within me. I think, again, I was so young and naive at the time. I don't think I gave myself enough credit for kind of the greatness that I had within me already. And I thought I needed to lose weight to define me and define all of those great things about myself. But I just feel like there was this inner strength that I needed to come out to realize, that I am wonderfully, perfectly made as I am, and that's really it. Like, I think I was searching for that so much, but that was there all along.
How do we get people to realize that that's there without shocking their system by flying them to California and have some lady yell at them? Like, how do we get somebody to realize that before they get to that type of extreme? If we can
You know,
unlock that.
I I think in this day and age, there's a lot more resources. It's talked about a
Yeah.
lot more. I think we are living in different times
Yeah.
now. Back 16, 17 years ago, this motivational world that we live in now and this self-love and self-acceptance and all of that was not talked
Mhm.
about
Mhm.
back when we were getting on Biggest Loser. And the world is so different now. There's so many more resources out there, I think, that thankfully people can, just scrolling on Instagram, you can find a motivational page and just start to feel like, "Oh, okay, I can do
Mhm.
this." We were our source of motivation was watching people on Biggest Loser kill themselves to try to lose weight to be worthy and be accepted. And so I think times are so different now, which is so great for those that are, maybe in similar shoes now that I was in that long ago. But I think there's a lot more resources, I think, now, thankfully. But I do think at the time back when I was 19 years old, I felt like I didn't have those resources. I was young and I thought that was my only hope was flying to California. And again, consuming some magic pill I thought existed, which
That
did
was
not
not a
exist.
magic pill. That magic pill was a 10-pound weight thrown at your face.
And see,
What about you?
well, let me, I just want to, reiterate what Amanda said. One of the things I do have to credit The Biggest Loser for is just what you had said. I think Biggest Loser was a catalyst, we were pilgrims. We were out there showing people, we were those videos. That show was that motivational video that people needed. I mean, it was just
Yeah.
amazing. I know for me afterwards, the comments and stuff that you would get from people.
Mm.
So,
You know,
And those comments come in, which is wild. Like, I still will get a comment 17 years later about just how motivated people are by me and my story, and I just think that that is so
oh
well,
freaking
yeah.
that's
cool.
because you're
Like, it's
beautiful, and Alan and I are just old men.
Well, speak
Yeah.
speak
not
speak for
true.
yourself because, my wife can contest to this. I still get recognized today. I think that's because I didn't have any hair then. I don't have any hair now. And the fact that black don't crack, that people still
Mm.
recognize me and they're just like, oh, I remember you from the show. And, just like you said, Amanda, and also you, Julio, people see you. And, they said, you motivated me. Because of you, I was able to do this.
Mhm.
And if I were to do the show again, that would be one of the reasons to do it. When I would go out and I would talk to people, they're like, well, what was your motivation? I go, you folks are my motivation now. To hear your
Right.
stories, to hear the changes that you have made or the changes that you are making because you watched those of us on The Biggest Loser. I think that's amazing. So I think that is the one big thing that the show did.
Good question, Amanda.
Yeah. So what was your question again for me?
I don't believe you asked your question.
Yeah, I did ask my question.
What did you learn about yourself that you didn't know before you got there?
What did I learn about myself that I
Mhm.
didn't know before I got there? Wow.
You want me to give you my answer while you're thinking about it?
You can give me your answer because I do have to think about that one for myself.
You know what's hard about this question? What's hard about this question is, do you want to talk about it? Right? Because this is a
Yeah.
very
Mhm.
personal question. And this is why I didn't tell you guys either, any of this that I was going to ask, because I thought about it for a lot of years. And it's a very personal thing because here's what people don't understand about these reality shows. We were completely sequestered on the show.
Yes.
What that means is we had no television, no cell phones, no contact to
Newspapers.
the outside world, no newspapers. If something happened to somebody, they had to come tap us on the shoulder. We didn't know. We had ourselves, we had the gym, we had a mountain, we had a swimming pool, which we all took advantage of as much as possible.
Yeah.
That's all we had. We had a crappy shower, a makeshift bed, right? We had to cook for ourselves. We had to clean for ourselves.
Yep.
Like there was nobody packing our lunch when we went
Mhm.
on
Mhm.
challenges or whatnot. We had to pack our own lunch and they had to throw it in the cooler.
Cooler.
We had to count our own calories, right? It was a hard life.
Yeah, it wasn't all
So
luxury.
yeah, so that's a place that, you're basically emotionally stripped naked in the middle of a desert with nobody there to throw a lifeboat to like we would in our normal lives. That's a very hard thing to deal with.
Hmm.
So what did I learn about myself? I learned that I can do way more than I ever could. I learned about myself I learned how to accomplish a goal, right? I figured out that for me to get to a finish line, I had to be able to see the finish line. Like if Jillian came up to me and said, just start doing jumping jacks till I tell you to stop, I could do one. If she said do 10 jumping jacks, then I went one. Okay, I know how to get to 10 and I do 10. Like these are things I learned about myself after the fact, and that's carried me through my life. Like if I can see the finish line, if I can look at it from 10,000 feet and say, here's my goal, and then I can see a path to get there, damn it, I'm on my way.
Mhm.
And I didn't know that before. The second thing I learned is I'm actually athletic.
You did play Little League Baseball when you were younger, you told me, so I
But I
believe
was
that.
really, really bad at that. So and the crazy thing, this is where I gained my love of baseball because I said it many times, baseball is life, right? And I guess that's gonna take me to the end of this. So
Mm.
listen, all of us had very similar yet very, very, very big differences in how we felt, what we went through, but yet we all came out of it. By the way, none of us here have any ill feelings towards the show. Do you guys?
No, I do
Do you have
not.
any ill feelings to the trainers? Do you have any ill feelings to the show?
Not
I don't
one.
feel like it destroyed me in any way. I think we
No.
made our choice
Yeah.
and we dealt with it. And, the consequences that we felt are the same consequences that anybody gets in weight loss. We just unfortunately did it on national television so that everyone can watch
Boy,
it,
we were dumb.
you know? I was telling your wife earlier, one of my favorite self quotes was when one of the young women on the show fell on a treadmill.
Mhm.
Right, and she
Mhm.
she was so embarrassed. She's like, "I can't believe I'm gonna be on national television. I'm falling on a treadmill." And I turned to her and I said, "Don't be mad about falling. It's the only break you get." I used to fall on purpose,
Just to get a break, yeah.
just to get away from the whole thing.
I know, I remember being like, "Oh, I'm gonna puke. Oh, thank God I didn't go outside for
So
Uh,
none of us have any ill will, right?
no, I
And,
do not.
this is an experience that whether we do again or not, only time will tell, my friend, because I'm a little more brittle than I used to be. But you know what I am? Is a lot more confident, a lot smarter, and I'm gonna go into it with a plan next time I do it, right? I'm gonna go into it with some knowledge. They didn't let us go into it with some knowledge. Listen, you guys are awesome. And I love you for doing this. I couldn't wait to do this episode. I couldn't wait to do it with you two. Somehow the three of us together brings out a little piece of each other that we don't have separately. And
True.
that's because of the bond we have had through the journeys we've been through.
Mhm.
And we're still sharing 16 years later. And I'm sure there's many other stories like this out in the Biggest Loser world,
Yes.
but maybe not so much as dear as it is here. So listen, I want to thank everyone out there for listening to my podcast, Big Man, Big Problems. I started this podcast because I want people out there who are my size or somewhere in between or are starting a weight loss journey, are struggling with where they are in their lives, or struggling to be big. I want you guys to be able to have a voice to understand that sometimes this isn't just a lifestyle choice, people. Sometimes this is just where you are in the world. And please leave comments on Facebook, leave comments on YouTube, leave comments on Instagram. Tell me your story. I want to talk about it. I'll share it with these guys. Maybe I'll bring them back as co-hosts someday so they could share your experiences. Okay. Probably separately because I don't know that I can handle you guys again. Right. But please listen, please watch. Thank you for joining. And I'll end with one quick baseball analogy. I love my baseball analogies, but listen, to me, it's a team sport played on an individual level. But the thing is, the whole team has to show up because you
Exactly.
don't know who has to take a DH, right? You don't know who has to come in as a pinch hitter. You don't know who's going to get hurt. You don't have to bring in as a relief pitcher. We go out there as a team.
True.
We win and lose as a team, and you can't do it without your team. And you guys are my team. Thank you. Thank you.
Uh-huh.
And thank you, everyone, for
We
listening.
Thanks,
I
love
hope you
Amanda.
love the
enjoyed it.
quotes.